Hey, Josh, let's jump right in. What's the biggest issue in the past that you had to stop ignoring because it was affecting growth?
Simply put, people in cash.
Well, later we're gonna dig into that in some more detail and hear about how when Josh addressed that and started making changes, how the business responded. Hello, this is Coach Tim Campsall with another episode of Self-Made is a Myth. Today we're digging into why addressing the talent gap is a top priority for Josh, so growth doesn't keep pulling him back into the day-to-day. If you're stuck between working harder and truly scaling, this episode will feel familiar. Many businesses hit what I call the messy middle. That's the stage where the business works, but still depends too much on the owner. Josh is my guest today, and he owns Wildman Business Group. They're a purpose driven, Christian based family business providing tailored uniform, sanitation, safety, and facility solutions that help businesses to stay clean, safe, and professional. Welcome, Josh.
It's great to be here. You said that as good as any sales rep we've got. So you're hired.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Well, I do have the benefit of one of your guys is in my BNI, so I get to hear it every week.
that's right. That's
Let's
right.
start at the beginning. Stepping into ownership requires a bit of a leap of faith. So, what made you believe, hey, I can do this even, without having it all figured out?
I would say because my mentor and my parents believed in me. So, I was in the business for 13 years before I took on the ownership role and had a great stewardship from my mom and dad. And then we actually had an outside CEO who was my mentor, and he had the confidence. Actually, it was delayed a year just in the readiness and preparation. So it wasn't just a give me. It
Yeah.
took some work. And so that confidence. And then I've always believed that there's wise counsel and or there's good counsel and many counselors. And so we had a strong board of directors and advisors around us. So that gave me a lot of confidence that, they would help me make sure I didn't dig a hole that was too deep.
Yeah, that's awesome. How long's the business been around?
So since 1952.
Okay.
So we've been, we're actually into fourth generation. We have some fourth generation. I'm third generation. So we're breaking the statistics right now as a
Yeah,
family business, but
fantastic.
it's not easy. So
Congratulations. Yeah.
thank you.
I've been with three different larger family-owned businesses. So SC Johnson, Sargento Cheese, and Red Gold Tomato. So I definitely understand the how hard it gets, the further into the generations it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
So now after the fact, Josh, what was the biggest difference between, what you expected pre-ownership, and how the journey's actually been?
So I think there wasn't a lot of transition the ownership. I think it was more of a leadership transition for me. So at the same time we took on the ownership, I went from COO to CEO. But
Mm,
I started on our route truck, so I did virtually every position in the company, worked my way up. So there wasn't a lot of change
mm.
in how we stewarded the business or that approach. Is I think the bigger change is really what we're talking about today. That as we grew, there's inflection points for sure that challenge my leadership and my thinking and how we were going to move forward. So
Yeah. We're going to dig into that in a little bit, but you mentioned the word stewardship, and I want to come back to the intro. So give me a little bit more context to to your intentionality about your purpose and Christian organization, because that's definitely not the norm.
yeah, so I'm a third generation CEO or member of our family business, but I'm actually a fourth generation, I would say, missionary. So our family has a long history and legacy in missions work, and
Oh, wow.
my mission field just happens to be, our business, so marketplace ministry. And so we refer to stewardship as temporary managers of a kingdom asset. And
Ah,
so really we look at it, we're not owners, we're just temporary managers.
mm.
And obviously that can come with blessings. It can also come with a lot of responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and to
Yeah.
whom much is given, much is required. And so I guess that's another piece of it is being able to hold that loosely, and that's not always easy to do. We all have a measure of pride and a want for control, but
Yeah,
our family works really hard to remind ourselves that, at the end of the day, we want to glorify God. That's our purpose in our work by empowering our people to flourish. So that's the biggest piece. That's how we view it. We don't get it right all the time, but we
sure.
work
Yeah.
we work hard at getting it right. So
I love the intentionality. The more that we are able to let go and give it to God, the more he shows up and creates amazing things. But um, I know for myself, it's hard. I want to control it. I want certainty, and giving it up is definitely a challenge.
yeah, closure is something that I struggle with. I want closure. So
So Josh, you mentioned this, you alluded to this earlier. Businesses hit plateaus at different points in their growth, and earlier you shared about people and cash affecting growth in the past. So walk us through that. What was happening, and what changes helped you to resolve it, and what things maybe still are a challenge.
yeah. So simultaneously, I saw both of these things. When I stepped into the business, I actually didn't desire to be in the family business long term. I had asked my father for really a summer job, and I had recently gotten married, was planning to relocate and pursue my passion in wakeboarding. And I had an injury training for wakeboarding, and that ended up keeping me in the business longer than I had intended.
Mm.
At the same time, my father had, on the 11th try, convinced our bank to this day, Lake City Bank, over a 30-year relationship, to loan him. At that time, we still laugh in our annual reviews with them that, how did you guys ever approve this loan? In today's environment, it was definitely on a relationship. And so he had highly leveraged the business to buy another company in town.
Mm.
And so I stepped right into understanding cash flow, and how to lead that, how to manage that.
Yeah.
At the same time, my father had realized, hey, I took these risks. I've got it to here. I'm not the person to take it forward. So at the same time, he hired an absolute leader, industry veteran, and expert to lead the business forward. So I
Wow.
saw the impact of understanding as a business leader how to manage cash flow, the importance of cash flow,
Yeah.
the understanding of all parts of the financial statements, not just the income statement. And then saw what a leader, one person can, we just saw that with the IU Hoosiers, right? The
Yeah.
one coach change, and in 2 years, somebody you never thought would win the national championship
Mm.
wins it. So all people matter, and they are our greatest asset. And when the leadership from certain people gets better, everybody gets better. So that's, from there, it was really those two things. I realized, hey, if you assemble the right team and they're committed to your vision and purpose, and you have the fuel,
Yeah.
the cash,
Yeah.
because that's why most businesses fail. They do not anticipate the need for cash,
Right.
and they run out of money. It could be the greatest idea, but they just didn't anticipate what it was really going to take.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That cash is super critical. I've too many people I've chatted with who, they bootstrapped their business because they didn't want to get the loan. But as the growth comes, they couldn't pay for the growth, and unfortunately weren't able to survive their own success because
yep,
they didn't have that cash there to be able to invest back into the business. So
yeah. And it always takes twice as long and costs twice as much as you anticipate when you do your pro forma.
yes, it does. It sure does.
So
Yeah.
that's a lesson I've learned. So
So going back to maybe one of those people or cash moments from the past that you worked through, um, give me a little bit of context if one of those examples come to mind, like what was going on, and what was the personal cost to you of not having that resolved?
yeah, I think that, when you're an owner, you understand what it means to make payroll. And so there were some sleepless nights where, it was down to, hey, I hope when I get up in the morning and check the bank account, everything's good.
Right.
And that's just being, totally
Yeah.
transparent. So that's definitely a lesson in just having to sweat that, what it really takes to be an
Mm,
owner and a leader responsible for the livelihood of families. That's a burden that, I definitely, created some, that's the question, what keeps you up at night,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge? And, at certain times, cash flow was certainly the biggest challenge because you got to grow.
Yeah.
Managing how fast or, you grow and needing to grow is two different things. So, and then with people, talent gaps are, as you go, we've doubled in our revenue in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
and we have some talent
Yeah.
gaps. And so that's where you've got to really look at, well, what do we do to fill that? If you're not going to be able to develop it fast enough internally,
Yeah.
how do you find leaders that have the experience but also the values alignment? So
Yeah.
culture for us is king. I mean, it eats strategy for breakfast, as
Yeah.
Drucker said, and so we're really careful. Not everybody can lead the way we want to show up. So.
So building on that, on talent gap, I mentioned that earlier that it's the thing that right now keeps pulling you back into the day to day. So give me a little bit more context. I appreciate what you're saying about culture and right not wanting to just hire anyone, but what's the bigger story behind that in terms of why does not having the right talent or having a gap in your talent, why does that get you pulled back into the day to day? And if it doesn't get fixed, what does it cost the business?
So in our business, there's a couple national companies that make up about 60% of our market in total.
Okay.
One of them makes up about 40%. And then there's independent launderers that make up the other 40%. Within that 40%, we're number three in the nation.
Okay.
So there's not very many that are in that kind of super regional
Mm.
fit.
Hmm.
And so we're in this unique spot where the roles that we now need, which are like regional vice presidents in operation, regional general managers, corporate engineers,
Right.
are not roles we've hired for in the past.
Hmm.
And so recruiting that very unique experience while lining up our values. And by the way,
Yes.
will you
Yeah.
move to a small town, Warsaw, Indiana? And then you want to come visit with your your family in January? Those are some headwinds, and
Yeah.
so it's really, we're looking for unicorns, is
Hmm.
what we like to say, and we've absolutely found some. But I think being patient enough, I don't know if you've, one of my favorite books is Small Giants, really being patient enough to slow it down when it's just not there.
Yeah.
Because I realized, at the end of the day, now that we have the number of locations we do, like I can't go fix it,
Yeah.
and nor should I.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
so might need to just slow down a little bit. So,
Yeah. The higher slow fire fast is such an
yeah.
important reminder, right? During,
Yeah.
especially when you're having the type of growth that you're having, because it can be so natural to say, well, anybody is better than nobody, because right, we just can't keep up. But that's certainly not true, right?
No, I mean, statistically, it's 50% of senior executives or leaders, senior leaders that are hired in from the outside fail.
Yeah.
And so, we want to get that, we want to be better than that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just really, it creates a lot of tension and rework. So,
Yeah. This is a great example of the messy middle I was talking about earlier, right? Typically, what happens in this growth stage is the business outgrows the current infrastructure, right? And so the leveling up that you were talking about, it's required in order to enable the business to prepare for the scale stage. But it's this middle gap. It's hard, right? It takes a very different approach. So just give me a little bit of context in terms of how you're seeing that on your end and how you're navigating through it.
Yeah, so right now, I mean, we're at another inflection point in our organization around. I mean, we've just realized that in the last. I would say we thought through that strategically. We knew it was coming. The reality of have we pivoted and made the adjustments is really hitting us right now. And so where we refer to it as the hero culture, we
Yeah.
hire A players, go figure it out. Like
Yes.
take care of the customer. Whereas we're at that inflection point right now as an organization, number of location, its employees, revenue, customer count, that hey, we've got to develop the standardized
Yeah.
processes. And then, we can't have this location doing sales one way and another
Right.
location,
Yeah.
so that's the biggest piece. And what that requires is that keen focus on the critical few, and then being willing to actually leave other things alone that may be exciting,
Yes.
shiny,
Yes.
or broken, like
Yeah.
literally leaving some things broken so
Yeah.
that you can move things forward. And then project management, just really
Mm.
slowing down to plan it out,
Yeah.
study it, detail out a plan, make sure you got a team around it, it's resourced well. Um, because again, as heroes, we've got pet projects
Yes.
to start up,
Yes.
so that those are really the two biggest things in addition to the talent. Like how are we, developing our talent? How are we
Yeah.
hiring? How are we doing performance management? So those are our three critical priorities, that I believe in that you shouldn't have more than three.
Hmm.
Now those can get really broad, but
Yes.
we try to keep the core, what we're moving forward under those three, really tight right now. And we call it technical debt. Like how much technical debt do we really have we created across the company? And we're our own worst enemy in that way. So that's how I'd answer that. So
The hero culture, um, we changed that word a little bit. We call it superhero-itis syndrome.
yeah,
And
go get your cape.
right? Yes. It's like, don't worry,
Actually,
I'll
now we're
fix
saying,
it.
hey, would you mind taking your cape off?
Yes, yes. So by calling it a more of a disease, right? Superheroitis, it makes it something that we can laugh about and go, oh yeah, you're right. I should not be doing, I shouldn't be jumping in to save the day. We need a process and and structure and policies to follow, and that other people can be doing these things. But it's hard, right? If because to get to a successful business, it requires that superheroitis, right? That hero mentality, the I'm gonna figure it all out and I'm gonna make it work, and right, and it works in the beginning, and then eventually it stops working.
Yep. Yep.
So how do you navigate through that cultural change of getting people to understand that they gotta turn to systems and processes and discipline as opposed to the cape?
We believe a lot in the rule of seven as far as just messaging and and then telling stories.
Mm,
So when we can celebrate, hey, look, this is what we're talking about. Like, look at this. We focused in, we identified this as a core, and we successfully made it better.
yeah.
So in our business, we refer to excellence as taking it personal and making it better. And so telling the stories around our values and our
Mm,
vision, mission, values.
yeah.
But then we've just realized like you've got to say it at least seven times
Yeah.
before anybody goes, oh, like process. I've heard this before.
Right?
Then
Yeah.
you got to, it's seven
Yes.
times seven before people are like, yep, that we're, and the
Yes.
reality is it takes 2 to 3 years to really embed that in a culture. And so
Yeah.
you're always in that tension of developing the business whilst continuing, any business that's not growing is in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. You're growing or
um
you're dying, right?
you're 100%. So that's kind of how we look at it, is you just gotta message it, message it, message it, message it, tie it back to our vision, mission, values. Tell the stories of the successes, tell the stories of the failures too. I mean, we had a really nice one this last year, failure. uh, a little hard to even tell the story, but you look at it and go, well, look, we didn't do these things, right?
Yeah.
And because
Right.
we didn't do these things and we try to do too much, this is what happens. And we hurt customers, we hurt people. We don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That repeat of messaging, it's so we get bored of it, right? And just assume because we've said it a whole bunch of times that everybody understands it, but right, they're not as close to the business as we are. They don't have the same, connection and understand the what's going on behind the scenes. So continuing to bring the message forward and reinforce it. And I love the idea of showing examples and right making it real in terms of the what's happening day to day.
mhm, mhm.
So Josh, what lesson do you wish that you had learned sooner that would have made the biggest impact on how you led the business?
I think just personally, I suffer from superhero-itis syndrome. And I wish I would have learned how to, as I evolved through my leadership roles, how to better handle conflict,
Mm,
number one. So rather than helping coach the person, maybe even coach the person out of the business, I would jump in and, overfunction and prop them up.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
so for me, really that conflict piece of it, and then just letting the team being really willing to let the team struggle and even fail,
Yeah.
like not swoop in and say, well, we just
Yeah.
can't lose that customer.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't want anything that's going to create a ripple effect
Hmm.
but you got to be willing to let some things fail because that's
Yes.
how we all learn. So,
Yes.
so those are the two that I wish I'd learned earlier, and I'm still learning. Like I have to be super conscious.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's how I learned. My mentor let me
Yeah.
figure some stuff out,
Yeah.
and he also knew when to enter into healthy debate and
Yes.
conflict and say,
Yes.
"Hey, you're not going to do that
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
going to hurt people."
Yes.
So,
Yeah. As
yeah.
long as you have a safety net, right? That let them make mistakes, let them fail, because that's the only way they'll learn. And also be close enough to understand, hey, there's a couple that thing right there. I can't let you fail there because that's going to have a too big of an impact on the business. Right?
Yep. Yep.
The the idea of letting people fail, and it's it's so hard when we want to be caring, right, and we want to help them grow and develop, and it's like, well, we don't want them to make mistakes. We don't want them to have to go through that stuff that I went through, and right, but all we're doing is teaching them to rely on us. Right.
Mhm.
And then later we get frustrated and discouraged that they're always knocking on the door and asking us questions because we trained them that way. So, um, how do you keep? I know you said just constant effort and focus on it, but do you have any tricks or tips on how you continue to remind yourself to let it go and don't save them and don't do it for them?
That I have just I think that, and I'll add one in here since I know you have a coaching business. I have a coach currently, and I think I wish I'll go back and answer your previous question. Say I wish I would have had an executive coach. Little plug for coaching earlier in my career, because you really, as a CEO, it really is lonely at the top. There's not a lot of people that are dealing with what you're dealing with. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of people to talk to. And so having somebody help process through that and then also help develop leading edge. So I do a 360 with my team every year, and that's part of my coaching process is getting that feedback. And so, I think that's critically important. And so I have basically a monthly review. I do self review of,
Okay.
okay, here
Yeah.
are am I getting better at this, or are there examples where, hey, yep, I did that again.
Mm,
And so, hopefully that moves the needle in the
yeah.
annual 360 when we get
Yeah.
back to it. So,
I love it.
yeah.
Josh, we know self-made is a myth. It's the whole purpose of the show. So who are the three people in your journey that you wouldn't be where you are without them? And specifically, how they help you along the way?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do four.
No problem.
I'm going to do four. So number one, I would say my wife Leslie, like she's my biggest support system in the lonely role of leadership. She's been an amazing. She's part of our company. She's not day to day, but if there's events, she's one of the most popular people there. It's she's just an amazing person and love her dearly. Number two, really I would say in my business career, it was Steve Bryant, who was that mentor CEO that my dad had hired.
Yeah.
My father, as an example of what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And then lastly, my relationship with Jesus Christ. At the end of the day, working for a purpose there has kept me on track.
Yeah.
To stay humble and not say, well, I did this in any way.
Yeah.
And so those are the four that I would answer with.
Wonderful. In your journey, Josh, when you felt stuck or overwhelmed, what belief about figuring it out on your own held you back, and what changed once you brought in outside perspective?
So I'll give a story there. So we had a pretty significant challenge in July of this year. I had a call on 4th of July that evening, about 2 a.m, that one of our plants had caught on fire. That was the initial call. And I was in Florida, plants in Indiana, and it wasn't our plant. It was two of our shuttles, didn't get into the plant, but it was significant. It burned a significant amount of merchandise. And in our business, we're recycling that merchandise every week. So we're cleaning it, repairing it, pressing it, returning it back to the customer the next week. It creates quite a bit of havoc. And so, in the past, I would have worked 24/7 literally for the next whatever, 2 or 3 weeks. I think what I learned is, hey, let's bring the team together. Let's not sugarcoat it. We got a big problem.
Yeah.
Let's cast a challenge and a vision. And in this case, I simply said, look, I believe we can actually make every delivery within the next week. Let's figure out if that's possible.
Wow.
And then that team, really rallied around it, and, never want that to happen again.
Sure.
But I would say our team would actually say, hey, this was a highlight from our year, because we all came around and did something that we would have all said, could you do this? No, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And I also, did I work some extra hours those weeks? 100% I did, but I didn't work 24/7. And there were times when I worked 24/7.
Right.
So, that's I guess a story of growing. And then tomorrow, I might end up working 24/7.
Well, it is a testament to the team that you've built and the culture that you guys have cultivated. So congrats on, being able to still make the deliveries. That's incredible. Very cool. Josh, it sounds like in your journey, you've been blessed with some incredible people along the way. If they were all here, what would you want to say to them?
Simply put, I love you, and thanks for investing and committing to me and to the organization, because it was, really that loyalty and commitment is the game changer. And so thank you.
Awesome. Josh, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you for having me.
If you're listening and realize that you're stuck in the messy middle stage of growth, there's a way through it, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. We offer a 2-week coaching trial to help you get clear on what needs to change, and more importantly, how. And the link is in the description. And if you want to learn from others navigating this stage, like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.